millions of people who rely on the state pension could end up being slapped with tax bills in the next few years. That's because the state pension is on the rise. But Chancellor Jeremy Hunt has imposed a tough 6-year freeze on tax thresholds, meaning for the first time in a century, it could go over the personal allowance. Lots of confusing sentences there, but we're going to make sense of it in the next 5 minutes.
I need this in layperson's terms. I welcome former Pensions Minister Baroness Altman. Baroness, thank you so much indeed for joining us. Do me a favour, we've spoken many times, right? I'm a person who needs it in the most basic terms. You've paid in all your life, you've paid your stamp, you get your pension, you've grafted, now you're going to be screwed by the government. This isn't great.
Well, the issue here is that the state pension has been going up, but the tax threshold hasn't. And at some point in the next, 3 years maybe, the state pension is going to creep over the personal tax threshold, assuming that there's, a small amount of either inflation or earnings growth, which is obviously expected. Now, the problem is that most pensioners simply have never even thought about making a tax return because millions of them don't have enough money to get over the £12,500 a year level. If the tax threshold remains frozen and the state pension then creeps over that £12,500 tax level where you start paying tax, then millions more pensioners are going to suddenly find that either they have to make a tax return, or if they don't realise that, they will be hit with a tax bill and probably penalties and the inland revenue coming down on them because they should have known they should pay tax and they didn't make a tax return.
Baroness Altman, can I ask the obvious question without... I'm just being straight with you, right? So we're now in a position where you graft all your life, you pay your tax, you pay your stamp, right? And when you get to enjoy just a few years, you're now going to be taxed again. Not good enough. Not good enough for pensioners in this country, is it? Come on, not good enough.
OK, so a lot of pensioners do already pay tax. The problem is that the lowest income ones, the poorer ones, and tend to be the older, more elderly ones, and especially women, never earned enough and never had enough pension to creep over that tax threshold. And let's face it, £12,500 a year, if that's all you've got to live on, is not going to give you a great lifestyle. But the problem here is that since 2021, the forecast suggests that in the next 3 years, 4 million more pensioners are going to suddenly find that they are in line to pay tax, and they probably won't know about it. So I'm saying that the government must be aware of this and try to find ways in which they don't penalise pensioners if they haven't realised that they might need to pay tax for not doing so, or ideally raise the tax threshold so this doesn't impact the poorest pensioners. Those who've got higher incomes already make tax returns. That's okay.
Yeah.
But it's absolutely not fair on those on the lowest state pension income. Baroness Altman, is this inevitable? Will this absolutely end up happening? Can the government change their opinion, change their minds on this? And have Labour said anything about what they would do if they were to come into power next year? Have they said that they would change the rules?
It's certainly not inevitable, and there are easy ways which you can avoid it. For example, increasing the tax threshold, which has been a bit of a controversial decision. To freeze it at £12,500 a year for the next few years is going to bring more working people into tax as well, low earners, particularly maybe young people trying to supplement their income while they are studying. So I think we need a proper review of how the tax system works and who ends up having to pay tax. Because if people who are on benefits, for example, start having to pay tax, it kind of makes a bit of a mockery of the whole system.
And I think, sorry, I'll go on like a bear with a sore head. I think it makes a mockery for pensioners like my father-in-law, did 35 years in a factory, has a smaller pension, that's what he lives off, and he's going to be screwed. Not good enough. Baroness Altman, thank you very much indeed.